Welcome to an emergency planning phase syndicate episode. It's going to be weird, folks. I apologize because I don't have my full setup because of work. But we decided to take our breaks today to talk about new points. So if I look weird or down or not at the camera, I apologize because I have everything all screwed up differently than I normally would. As a side note, we are streaming a Nickel City game tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. So if you'd like to join me, we will be commentating and talking about hopefully Nick wins so that my game against Andrew Oler is not as important to the series. If not, I guess my game's the tiebreaker for this week. So, all right. So we'll start with ship points, shall we, JJ?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have probably there are a few factions that were just affected. It wasn't like a overall like sweep of points that some people were expecting. But we definitely do have some items here that were definitely touched here. First of all, we do get the reveal points for the Battle of Yavin standard pilots. Darth Vader for this pack coming in at 6 points. I mean, that is huge. I mean, you can now fit that version of Vader with Soontir Fel and still have 8 points left over. But on the side of that, we also have changes to the TIE fighters. They're the ones that were 2 points, Wampa, Jingoist, and Valen Ruder are now 3 points apiece. They get a little bit bump in their loadout values, but now we have just the generic Academy pilots and Black Squadron aces at 2 points apiece with no loadout points whatsoever.
Yeah, so essentially, even that TIE swarm that we saw a little bit on, I don't know, whatever day it was, whatever day we saw for the Galaxies with the black ties and discipline can no longer take discipline. So yeah. I'm going to say I feel this is probably a fair trade value. I will say it just sucks because it would be nice if those ties could take something. Yeah. But I understand why killing the points makes it necessary, right? Because now we don't have the same issue we had before with them being able to take discipline and be super strong.
Yeah.
So
now, the interesting thing now is that they've now given the Jingoist at 3 points, 5 loadout value, and a talent slot.
Yeah.
But for those who don't know, Notorious is now 5 points, and you cannot equip them on the Jingoist because they have to have an illicit already equipped on them, so that way they can actually carry Notorious.
Exactly. And I think that's important, right? Like, so we'll get to the Notorious discussion here in a few minutes. Because I'm actually not super upset by the Notorious one. Yeah. I think the Notorious one seems fine to change, but at least we won't see Jingoist running around with Notorious. You get double strained every turn. Like, that would be horrible, right?
Yeah, definitely. That would be pretty bad. Absolutely.
Yeah. Here, let me give you a strain for shooting at me, and then on top of that, why don't you take a second strain when I activate?
Or even better, just give them a deplete, so that way after you shoot at them with the strain, you deplete them and they can't hit you back as hard, which is even worse. God. So, man. So going on that, we do have the other reveal pilots for the Battle of the Yavin pack. We have Iden Versio coming in at 6 points in the TIE Interceptor. Now, in the rules reference, we already do have an errata for her. It looks like there was... she was released with, I guess, some incorrect wording on her ship. I'll read it here as soon as I find it here. But essentially, they just clarified her ability to work strictly with TIE, friendly TIE. So it said, pilot ability should read, before a friendly TIE in range 0 to 1 would suffer damage, you may spend 2 charges. Do you prevent 1 damage? So that's a clarification on her card that's written and released for the for this pack here.
So I have a quick question, because so that's coming in at 6 points, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to take that over the 3 point Iden in the tie? All you get is a little bit more maneuverable dial, and you get you don't get to prevent. I guess you get to prevent damage every other round, but that's still compared to when a ship would get erased off the board. I don't know.
Hang on, I gotta actually look at her stat line because if I remember correctly, she comes with a shield as well.
Ooh,
Um,
okay.
so that for me kind of makes it worth it. You know, she's shooting one more die. She has one more shield, and she, while her ability isn't as powerful, you can trigger it multiple times. And when you're trying to keep somebody alive, like especially like let's say you consider running somebody through a debris cloud to get away, right? Just guaranteeing that that ship does not suffer the critical or the hit result from going over the debris cloud to get away to like keep an objective or something. That is pretty huge. That's a very big ability for her to negate that damage. It is a bit of a corner case, but it is a potential there that the other item doesn't have regularly.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And then it looks like all the other Sigmas come in at 4 points. That's probably fair at this
Yeah.
current time. Gives you some more interceptors to play. I mean, if you think about it, you can run 5 of them if you really want to, or you could run 4 of them with Iden, or you could run 3 of them, which seems really bad. But that seems really bad because you could run Soontir, Iden, and 1 of them, right? 12,
Shoot,
2 of them.
And even worse when you factor in they can now run these guys with natural wind rider to make sure that if they die, they still get their shots off. I mean, that sounds pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the I like that it's not save a ship; it's only 1 damage. But to lose point, yeah, like any tie, so you can save anybody that's by Iden. I will say if you're not a fast ship, you're not going to be by Iden very often. But
yeah, definitely. Now
there is that potential.
Exactly. Yeah, there's that potential there. Now, the other ships that we've seen here for Dark Curse and Backstabber, both coming in at 4 points. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that their abilities are worth like 4 points, or are they just right?
Which one is the I6? That's Dark Curse, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. That one I feel is probably worth the 4 points. Backstabber, I'm having a hard time wanting to take that ship at 4 points. But again, you got to think some of these. So here's kind of a little bit of the crux too, right? The new Battle of Yavin officially released what your squad points are allowed to be, right? Yesterday.
Mhm.
So it because it is a higher squad point value, if we put some of these ships in at too low of a squad points, think about it, you're just going to have a million ships running in there. And since technically speaking, and I guess we didn't think about this when we were talking about this beforehand, but if you think about it, technically speaking, because they can price them for that, it might help inside of standard play. Because I think Dark Curse at 3 points in standard play is an auto include. It's not even a question at that point. At 4 points, now I have to compete with Howl Runner, you know? Because I'm still going to take Dark Curse over a Jingoist every day of the week.
Yeah, and I gotta say, Mauler Mythal at 3 points. I mean, if I'm running Vader at all in my list, that's an auto include. He's an initiative 5 with Predator and Afterburners, and he gets to roll an additional die as long as Vader's on his side arc. I mean, that is really good. That's a 3-point interceptor essentially.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think I don't know. I think we will see play for them. I think that outside of that the Yavin pack, it'll be a little bit less, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't remember what all of their standard loadout stuff is, and they don't have it in the stupid sheet.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm like making reference to like the actual cards and stuff, so that I'm like, I can make a better informed decision there. But yeah. Will Haywood in the chat saying, how long before a tournament is won with only standard loadouts? I would say once the Coruscant pack comes out, I can see that being at least a top cut list, like being in there, because they got some great ships at cheap prices, and we'll go through there.
Yeah.
So
I will tell you, I will tell you, I am not super excited if that becomes the case, because I don't want AMG to ever get to the point where they believe they can just release standard loadout cards.
I mean, it did say that in the new squadron packs coming out, the starter packs, that they'll be strictly standard loadout, standardized loadout pilots only, but it's for stuff that we already have. So, I mean, yay! But at the same time, I'm not playing another core set, especially if it's for the same pilots that we already have. So,
all right, let's move on to Rebels.
So Rebels, we got some of the Y Wings revealed here. They're all coming in at 4 points, which I do think is fair. Dutch did have an errata as well in the rules reference. Apparently, in the pack, he was. I believe they put him in as Initiative 5 on the cardboard. He is supposed to be Initiative 4. And I guess there was just a misprint there. From the photos that I've already seen, apparently there's quite a few different like mistakes on the cardboard there. Just wish that AMG would take a little bit more care in their their quality control when they're sending this stuff out. But it's minor. You can still use the old base from Dutch, and it's not a problem.
Yeah, I think Pops coming in at 4 points is pretty good too. I guess it's nice to see them all at 4 points at this point, because it'll give me an opportunity to actually play with them.
Yeah, you can run 5 of them, and they all have pretty good abilities, I would say. That'll be a solid squad.
Yeah. So let's address the misprint stuff just for a second, and because I know there was a pretty big debate in Nickel City today, over the misprints. I don't know. I think a lot of I think I agree with you that there needs to be better quality control.
Yeah,
I really do. Am I going to let it ruin my game? No. Will it make for headaches going into major tournaments? Yes. And I will say, you know what? Flat out, you know why? Because of the pure fact of when we did our Michigan GT, somebody ran a Delta 7B, right? And it shows up in the banned list, but somebody had that card. But we all know that it's just because they never released the new damn card. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You have to print and play it, or use infinite arenas,
Yeah. So now we personally, I made the call to let it slide personally, just because which I probably shouldn't have done because I was playing, but I wasn't playing that guy. But I let it go because it's AMG just they haven't kept up with that.
Yeah.
So what they really need to do is partner with like a printing company where you can order that individual thing and just pay shipping for it.
Yeah, exactly. It will be great if they could partner with like UPS Store or like Staples or something like that, where you can just go and just order it straight up and just pick it up whenever you can. They're pretty available nationwide, and you should be able to just pick that up pretty easily there. But again, I mean, I assume that there's probably a lot of licensing stuff when it comes to like that kind of stuff, to have the approval from like Lucasfilm to like give access to third-party companies to give the permissions to make that kind of card. I know that's usually a lot of red tape in the background for that kind of stuff, but it would be great if that was readily available for everybody to just go in and purchase it for cheap.
Yeah. And actually that might be something that I talk with Nick or somebody else about. Maybe there's a way that we could partner with somebody to have some of these cards reprinted.
Exactly.
In a smaller batch. So Y Wings, good. I think that's good. I don't play a lot of Rebels, but I think that'll be fun to put on the table. Sorry to Nick. I know Nick's not watching right now, but when Nick goes back to watch this later, sorry to Nick. They did not change your Hawks in Rebels, baby.
I know. That was the first thing I saw. I'm like, nope. January's is still 6 points.
Yeah. So nobody listened.
And she still has a title. Yep.
Yeah. Now, thankfully, Han came in at 7 points instead of 6. I was a little worried they were going to give us a freaking 6-point Rebel YT 1300 for a second there.
7 points seems to be a very good sweet spot for this particular Han. Although, that's pretty good for his ability, for what he does. Being able to do that coordinate after his attack is really, really strong to just like, especially if you can get somebody that can double reposition. That would be really, really good there. But yeah, and then the other pilots that we see here, probably the biggest one for me is Garvin Drays in the X-wing coming in at 4 points. Same thing with Jack Porkins also coming in at 4 points. You're able to run 5 T65 X-wings in a list, and they all have pretty good abilities there. It's pretty good. What are your thoughts on Luke Skywalker also coming in at 6 points? Do you think he still has the same power level as regular Luke?
I mean, yes, yes. I think it's fine. Other than I don't like that it can boost in and still take the target lock action. It just means you have to play careful against Luke. I guess that's what that really means, and you have to be very careful because Luke being able to get coordinated ahead of time for a focus, right? And then doing a 4 straight boost with a target lock, you can cover over half the board. So if you come in at a 3, I think a 3, we'd have to play with it on TTS, but I think a 3 straight matching up with Luke allows him in proton torpedo range.
Yeah, definitely. And being able to have the coordinated ability, just to be able to get off that target lock after Han engages there and gets that triggered off, that's going to be huge for the Rebels. I mean, especially when you consider that the Wedge Antilles is at 5 points. Sure, he's an initiative 5, but that's really big for that Wedge to be able to get that target lock when he needs to, and just basically take a focus. It's really good.
Yep. Yeah. Yes. Not having the bank boost does hurt. You're right, Will. That one I agree with. But I think the problem with those if you start giving them bank boosts for free, you make that card have to cost more. I mean, and so at least this way they could keep the Luke at 6 points. Again, I don't like not being able to customize my Luke, just personally. Yeah. But I mean, I guess it is what it is. Proton torpedoes on a free boosting Luke seems pretty good. To be perfectly honest with you, I would probably not run that Luke though. I probably would run the other Luke, but Wedge on the other hand, yeah, that is one I would easily. Wedge for 5 points is a steal, I think. Oh, yeah. Even without being able to customize him.
Yeah, and the biggest part too about the attack speed upgrade for the new T65s is just combining it with Leia, right? Because you can still get that you can turn your K turn, your 4K turn with Leia into white, and after you perform the 4K, you can still do the 1 boost straight. Which, if you're trying to stay in proximity and let's say assault the satellite array, making sure that you're still within that range 1 bubble of an objective point, or trying to stay in that range 2 bubble and chance engagement, having that ability to always stay in the mix in that center radius is huge, especially when you can combine it with Leia. I think that it's still strong even if they can't do the bank boost. There's definitely still a lot of utility for those T65s.
So then we move on to Scum, and Scum had 0 changes. So I'm going to immediately say I'm disappointed.
Yeah,
Scum had no changes. So
I think Mando definitely should have gone down 1. Fenrir should have definitely gone down 1, and probably adjust some of the loadout points for some of the other ships. But I mean, I guess because the packs didn't really affect them, I mean, I guess they just got left out here. But we'll move on over to the First Order. First Order, the first thing I see here that hit me right in the face, Commander Malaris having her loadout lowered down to 4 points. That's pretty big.
Really? I didn't think that was this. What, 1 point change?
Yeah, because now you can't do a pattern analyzer, or you can't do concussions anymore. Sure, you could do a cluster missile if you really want to with Malaris, and you do have 2 upgrade slots with Malaris now, so you could do Proud Tradition and Fanatical if you wanted to. But this really limits her ability to be effective with ordnance. I mean, other than cluster missiles.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Personally, I don't think it's that big a deal. I guess losing the ability to have your Fanatical could be potentially dangerous, but Again,
Yeah.
they didn't change her, so really, I don't know. I don't see any loadout change. Um, I don't know. To me, it's not as big of a deal. I actually probably, with some of the other changes that they made, they probably could have just left her alone, honestly. Because
Yeah.
are you going to tell me you're going to take a Scorch or a Static over Malorus and an I5?
No, not
Probably
at all.
not.
No.
You're going to go, I guess, cluster missiles. And I'll be honest, I ran cluster missiles on her over the concussion missiles anyway, personally. But that's just me. Um,
Yeah, exactly. And it's not that big of a difference, but still, I mean, not being able to have that range 3 concussion missile does hurt her ability a little bit. But I mean, you just adjust, right? It's up to the player to adjust your tactics according to like what you have available. So yeah, you're absolutely right for that.
yeah.
Now,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was gonna say, so nothing else really for the first order in terms of like any changes for like points and stuff. We do have a little bit of a change for the FO bombers, and it's mainly because, and we'll get to that in a little bit, is that there are changes to the cost of mines and the electro chaff missile, but we'll probably touch that a little bit more once we get to those upgrade points. But other than that, Dread and Grudge, probably the most popular of the two, still remain at 4 points with their loadout values at 12 and 15 points.
Yep. And
So no change
Breach
there.
didn't change. So like
Yep.
you can spend a little bit more money and run Breach, which probably would make your opponent feel better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, so going on to the resistance, we see that the resistance Y wings got the points adjustment hammer here a little bit. So no longer 3 points, which I guess is fair. They did get an overall change, probably about like 1 or 2 points across the board for most of the loadout values. And the biggest thing here is one of the titles which we don't see on here right now, but we'll come up to it. Wartime loadout coming down to 5 points. That's definitely something that's really tempting now on these Y wings. Even if they're not 3 points anymore, having the ability to have 2 extra shields on those Y wings and get essentially like a passive crack shot on their chassis ability with ordnance. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and I think I don't know. I'm not in agreement that all of them should have gone to 4 points, but
Yeah.
I already stated that. I felt getting a few of them, especially your higher initiative ones up there,
Yeah.
was things. But again, here now with wartime loadout going down to 5 points, maybe the problem becomes if you do that right and you leave a few of them at 3 points, they just become auto includes, which is like AMG's like favorite thing that they hate. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and especially when you have 3-point coordinators that exist now with the resistance in like R1J5, buckets that can hold on to C3PO or rows with C3PO. Those are very good at coordinating ships that can easily get those mods over to those Y wings, and then they can spend their action to either boost into position or get a lock and launch those ordnance pretty easily.
Yeah. What I was really hoping is that like Akbar would have stayed at 3 points. Like I like playing Akbar personally, so
Yeah.
that would have been fun to play Akbar at 3 points still, but that's fine. I understand the logic in it. The one noticeable thing here is nobody touched Finn. So I guess Corey, you were right. I don't remember what I bet Corey, but fucking nobody touched Finn.
The other part I feel so sad for Navi is that these A-wings, man, they're still in purgatory, man. They're still like no points adjustments for any of these. They're still at 4 and 5 points, and honestly, with their low loadout values and not being able to equip really good ordnance and upgrades to help balance their offensive potential, it just feels tough to really justify taking an A-wing over a Y-wing that can take proton torpedoes and still have mods for like other stuff, and you can fit more of them over an A-wing. Like it's really really tough to justify taking an A-wing for resistance right now.
Yeah, which is really sad. I mean, yeah, Lulu and ZZ have 15 loadout points, but what does it matter? like it still dies right away. None of them are Ahsoka. Like I think like Ahsoka, to me, Ahsoka was one of the more fairly balanced A-wings at 5 points. You know,
Yeah.
but this is all the issue we have with not having half points. Or like 3.5 points or whatever. Like we don't have any of that stuff. We don't have a big enough point pool to allow there to be versatility in this, which is why they went from like the 100 point system, to the 200 point system back in the day. Maybe at some point we'll get a 40 point system. I don't know, but I will say that like there is definitely like Merle could have easily gone down to 3 points.
Yeah.
Greer could have gone down to 3 points. Like just those. Okay, Stefan. No, Stefan's ability is shit. Like you can make him 3 points.
Yeah, and the other side too, to balance it out, is that if you're making 3 points, then you also take away some of the loadout value, so that way they can equip like optics, which is something that's pretty much stapled on these A-wings. That prevents them from always basically having a high probability of always rolling 2 hits. That's something that you could do to make these A-wings 3 points and still be a viable option for the resistance. But who knows? Maybe next points update we might get some love for them.
Maybe. And we didn't see X-Wings go down in points here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's keep moving on, I guess.
Now on to the Republic here. Man, these Siege of Coruscant pilots, just wow. Right off the bat, Jag and Wolf in the Arc 170 at 4 points. 4 points, which means that you can fit both of them and still have room for 3 other 4-pointers, or even a lad and somebody cheap with like V-Wing or something like that, and still have so much holes to chew through for the Republic. It is so good having a 4-point Arc 170 for the Republic right now.
Yeah. So, and again, I don't remember their loadout yet, so you will have to come back to what their loadout actually is. Yeah. But I do agree, giving us 2 of these, I think 2 is aggressive. I think 1 would have been fine, especially because one of them's Wolf. So I don't know. That seems pretty good to have a 4-point Wolf. Again, I don't know what his ability is, if it's any different from the standardized Wolf. It probably is, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
like
taking a look, see if we have any snippets of it.
Yeah,
I just think that just even if you disregard the ability, right? You think about how much hull and shields that they have. They're 9 apiece. 6 hull, 3 shields apiece. That is a lot of health to chew through. And just being able to include that in a list, especially at their initiatives. I mean, Wolf is a 4 and Jag at a 3. You're able to occupy a lot of space in Assault of the Satellite Array. You're able to get some blocks in and some passive abilities with the rerolls through Wolf. You have a higher chance of like doling out those crits if you need to. It's a lot. It's definitely a lot that you can do with those ships.
Yeah, and the one thing we didn't see change is any Taurens. No Taurens got changed.
Yeah, I know. I'm actually really surprised that the Taurens still came in at 3 points for the new ones that are coming in for this pack here. Definitely seeing Anakin Skywalker, though, in the Ada coming in at 5 points. Yes, he's more of an Ion build. And Obi-Wan Kenobi at 4 points in an Ada, as well as Shaak Ti.
Yeah,
I mean, that is huge. And not to mention that Shaak Ti actually buffs the oddball Jag and Wolf in the Arc 170 with their ability, since they have the Born for This ability, which they can actually share focus and evades, kind of like the droids do.
Is Obi's ability the same in the Ada as it is in the regular one, where you can share? Will you spend the Force?
Anakin. Yeah. Huh? He's like the Ada Anakin, or the Ada Obi, where if Anakin or himself are within range, you can get a spend a horse for a token.
So these, again, they're still Adas though, man. I will say Obi at 4 points seems pretty good. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd have to put him on the table though to know.
Yeah. I mean, if anything else, an I-5 Ada, being able to get in there and probably initially kill some ships at 4 points. I mean, that's really good. That's really, really good.
Yeah. So the biggest change is Hawk lost 8 loadout points. 8 loadout points for Hawk. Just gone. Just see ya. And then Hound, they said, nope, you could be 6 points. And it's like, oh. And Hound lost 2 loadout points on top of that.
Yeah, exactly. They definitely brought the hammer onto the lats here. Don't get me wrong. Hawk at 5 points and only with 12 loadout value is still really good. I mean, you can still put in Yoda to help boost your Jedi's with Force. That is still a valuable asset there. You still got Obi-Wan Kenobi at 11 points to help out your other ships with focus. There's still other options in the crew slots for the Hawks. They're not going to be as effective as they were. I mean, C-3PO is still 6 points to help boost the defensiveness of the Hawk. You're not going to get the crazy effective combos that you could with the lats, but they're still providing you rerolls for your ships. They can still, if you decide to load them out offensively, they still got slots for them to like equip barrage rockets plus a crew. They still have a lot of options there. To be an effective part for your list.
Yeah, but Hound can no longer take barrage rocket Ayla ever.
Yeah,
like that's not a thing anymore. So
which is fine. I'm okay with that, honestly.
And technically with Hawk, you could still take 7th Fleet, Agile Gunner, and Dedicated.
Yes.
So,
which is still a very effective build, for what it does. Yeah, absolutely.
No, Hound means Pre gets to use his ability more. Lou, that is 100% true because you know how many times if you don't pay attention to Pre Vizsla, you play it wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then the funny thing is with the torrents, they left most of them at 4 points, and then they gave us the standardized axe at 4 points. Like, I don't know. Hopefully that ship's loadout is good, because otherwise, why would I run that?
He comes with barrage rockets and Deadeye shot, and then his ability is the same as the standard torrent, where he gets a lock on the defender after another friendly. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Let me read this out. After you perform an attack, you may choose another friendly ship with the Born for this ability, basically another clone that has it, at range 0 to 2 in your side arc, and that ship gains a lock on the defender. So this does enable locks, though this is at initiative 3, so it is not the best, but still, barrage rockets on a torrent, pretty good way to get those 3-die attacks for cheap.
Yeah, but is it barrage rocket? Can he run? Can he run barrage rockets before or no?
I don't believe so. Hang on, double check here. No, because he only had a single missile slot, so no, he wasn't able to run barrage rockets before.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess there you go. If you want to pay 1 more point, you can run a barrage rocket.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Seppies are next. There was not any big changes in Separatists. They just essentially gave us the Tri-Fighter like costs for Siege of Coruscant. And they came in at 4, 4, and 5. So
yeah, I'm a bit disappointed that the T-81 coming in at 5 points. I mean, yes, he does have a really good ability, but it's still a Tri-Fighter that can pop with a 1 bad roll. I don't know if it's worth 5 points, honestly. It's really tough to really justify having that ship with only 3 hull to be at that cost, and it's an initiative 4 on top of that. So yeah, that's a tough sell.
Then we have a Bactoid prototype coming in at 3 points. DBS-32C coming in at 3 points. That I don't know what loadout that's gonna have. But I will say that actually immediately intrigues me. And DBS-404 coming in at 3 points is somewhat intriguing as well.
Yeah, definitely. In 32C, his ability reads: after you perform a calculated action, you can spend a charge to perform a jam action. At 3 points, that is very, very big. It also comes equipped with plasma torpedoes, the contingency protocol, and which allows it to perform an action after another ship is destroyed, and then of course the struts. That is really, really good to have a really cheap jammer on the Separatist, and it's tanky, so it's definitely gonna take some effort to take down the ship.
Yeah, so I'm a little excited for those. I will say that I kind of want to those ones. I wish we had cards for, so we could put them on the table right now.
Yeah,
Dooku came in at 6 points in the Sith Infiltrator, but none of the other ones. They didn't change any of the other ones. Like,
I know. I was actually really
I-
surprised that that they didn't adjust any of the other Sith infiltrators. They definitely need some love. Dooku coming in at 6 points. It's probably a little higher than I wanted to, but he is still 3/4. It's going to be a decent way to still get him on the board, but honestly, I don't know. Just 1 point less than the regular Dooku. I mean, yeah, I guess that's a fair trade. But yeah, I'm just wishing that at least 066 would have been looked at and at least brought down to 5 points to make them playable. But yeah, that's about it. Like nothing else for these Sith infiltrators to make them playable or make you consider them over like a fire spray or the gauntlet even.
yeah, yeah. With the Gauntlet, the Gauntlet is just better. This Dooku being an I5 might actually be worth it. Um, that might be worth it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Then we have the Holocron DFS 81 coming in at 2 points, and DFS 311 coming in at 3. Um, Again, I don't see these as things burning the world down personally.
yeah, exactly. They're pretty much the same points as their counterparts. No big shakeups there. Definitely really nice options to add into your list when you're looking to fill out vultures on your list. They're definitely going to be really nice to just add those into your list there.
Yeah, I think that's all of them on this doc, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we'll go on to upgrade points, and we'll just go straight down to page number 15, where we have our first real changes here. And the first ones that we see here are going to be the astromechs that were affected here. So the R3 astromech going up to 4 points. Now, if you don't remember what that is the astromech that allows you to maintain up to 2 target locks and also give you that extra lock when you take the target lock action. We normally saw this pretty heavily on the rebels, meaning like the X-wings and the Y-wings, like on Dutch, for instance, being able to take 2 target locks there, and also on the jump master as well, being able to maintain 2 locks. Coming in at 4 points, I still think they'll see play. I mean, it sucks that they went up 1 point, but I still think it's a fair cost for what it provides.
Yeah, to me the R3 can go up. That's fine. There's no big deal there.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely. And then the other one that actually surprised me was the R4 astromech, which allows the small ships that equip it to minimize or reduce the difficulty of your 1 and 2 maneuvers for your ship there. This is something that we see a lot on X-Wings, the E-Wings, Nick Sperry, shout out, as well as the coordinating sheath beats that definitely needed that R4 astromechs. And the resistance transport is the other one that uses it a lot, specifically Covenel. I think that for what that astromech does, it actually should be the same cost as R3 astromech. There's no other upgrade that really affects your dial as much as R4 astromech does. What are your thoughts?
yeah, I don't see it being a problem going up to 3 points, other than the fact that on these low initiative ships where you're just trying to fill points out, it makes it harder now.
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I don't personally. How about this? Personally, I don't think it was a problem and should have been touched. But that's just my opinion. I think it was fine at 2. Um, personally, but again, going up to 3 also doesn't matter.
Yeah, definitely. We'll still see plenty of those astromechs in play for all those ships, definitely, without a doubt. Now, going down now, we're hitting now a lot of the upgrades here for for the payloads and those upgrades. The first one you see here, the Electro Chaff missile, which there's been a lot of talk in the community about getting this card fixed. It's now up to 9 points. Can you believe that 5-point jump?
It's bullshit. But so this is where I get on my soapbox a little bit, right? Like, I do not believe changing points solely is always the answer. Period. It's just not. And this is one to me that I feel is BS. Now, if you take what Grudge's loadout is, right? So obviously this is a reactionary thing. Grudge's loadout plus proxies, you can no longer run proxies and electro chafe missiles on the same ship. You just can't.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So my problem becomes
you could still fit this in a seismic charge on it, but
yeah, you could still put, because he has a 15, so you could still put the 9 points, the 3 points, that's what, 12, and you still have 3 more points left over on Grudge, if I remember right. And so that still allows you to put skilled bombardier. It allows you to put another gunner if they wanted to. You could also put you can't put, there's no more, or bomblet generator, I think is, no, you can't, because that takes up 2 slots. So yeah, so you're only going to be, if you want to run electro chafe, you now can no longer, run any sort of mines, which, okay, like, I understand that piece of it, like not being able to take both of them. I do agree with that to some extent. I also think that you could have fixed it, like I've said 100 times over, by not allowing the pre-system phase boost to shoot it and not allowing skill and bombardier to affect shapes.
Yeah.
And I think they decided, well, it's ran on too many lists because now we have fire sprays and all these other things that can take it. And again, like, I didn't like it on my Django trick shot. I ran Django trick shot. I don't remember if it was you or Crispy was working with me on that. It doesn't work very well. I didn't like it as much as I liked my other Django. And so I really just didn't feel chafe missiles were that big of a problem, other than with, them being able to be taken on a bomber that can do those weird things. If you fix those other 2 things, and you could have probably just raised the points 1 or 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the other part of it too is like, when you compare this directly to like the effect that it has on the game, yeah, sure, you get jammed, which prevents you from taking those tokens there. If you end up overlapping it completely, you skip your perform action step. But in both of those cases, you're not suffering damage. It's not like you're landing on a cluster mine or proximity mine, which has definitely a much more negative effect of potentially killing your ship. I don't think electro chaff missiles, especially since it's a one-shot, while it was a nuisance in the game, it definitely wasn't to the point that it needed to get a hard points adjustment that it got now. There's always ways to counter play against it. I mean, having ships that can coordinate you to avoid or negate the effects of the electro chaff missile, making sure that your dial is adjusted to anticipate the drop of those electro chaff missiles. Those are different ways that you can mitigate the effects of that and come out as a minimal loss. And not to mention, the ship that always launched it always has the potential to land on it themselves as well as a negative effect. So I don't feel that the electro chaff missile was deserving of this big points break, but again, maybe in the next points adjustment, it'll come out of points purgatory and, probably be adjusted correctly. I could see it being 5 points and, being okay with it. But at 9 points, it's going to be really hard for any player to consider this over a bomb or an ordnance, like a missile, to actually use for offensive purposes. Especially when you consider now that both cluster mines jumping to 7 points and proximity mines jumping to 8 points, is going to be a harder sell now to choose the electrotrap missile over a proxy mine or a cluster mine.
Yeah. Nope. And I don't know. I just, it is what it is, I guess. We'll see. We'll see how it affects things. I will tell you, I will still tell you that if you have two bombers in a list, having one of them with Chaff and the other one with the proxy mines is still going to be, you're just going to run it differently. How about that? Like, Crispy's original, 5-ship list only changes slightly, right? You're just going to reposition your bombers slightly different, and you're just going to take one Chaff versus two. But, I mean, you and I found out seismic charge and Chaff missiles are still pretty damn good. Like we were playing around with that on those separatist bombers, not the bombers, the whatever the droid bombers are. I don't remember the name of the damn things now, but whatever they are, they could shoot a Chaff missile. They used to be able to. They can't anymore. And then you could have a bombardment drone drop seismic out the front, and that's 1 damage each churn, and it doesn't make it go away the first churn. Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's nice to see Grudge have to make a choice, but at the same token, I would have been okay if they just had rotted it to say, don't do these certain things, and then let's make it 5 points or 6 points.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think the proxy mine, okay. So can we talk about clusters for 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Why did they do anything to cluster mines? They don't do it. They're not dedicated damage. Like, I took them because they were board denial space. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no guaranteed damage on cluster mines. I mean, it's basically a more fancier bomblet generator, essentially. You're rolling 2 dice for each potential mine that you may overlap, and you have a 50% chance of taking damage on each dice. I don't see why the cluster mines were needed to be adjusted, but I'm assuming, I guess, my only thought to this is that they probably saw some interaction with some of the newer the new ships or pilots that came out, and they wanted to make sure that this wasn't overly abused or make those ships last a little bit longer when they were facing mines and proximity mines, and probably just wanted to adjust it for that. That's the only reasoning I could see AMG making the change for cluster mines in addition to proximity mines for that. But beyond that, I mean, honestly, cluster mines was not a problem. I mean, most people were considering just taking proton bombs if they didn't have the points and invest that extra point somewhere else, or if they had the spot, you would just go to proximity mines because there's just 1 point more, and you had that guaranteed damage at proximity mines. But yeah, I guess it just needed to get that adjustment.
Yeah, and same thing with the proxy mines, like moving them to 8. I don't know. I don't see that as a lot. Like, I don't know. I get it, I guess, because proxy mines can be a negative play experience. Bombs are less of a negative play experience.
Yeah, because you always have that chance. But even then, I mean...
But it's still a chance. Yeah. It's only 1 damage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. Grudge was the one that made it worse, and it's 1 effing ship, right? AMG and FFG have a ship called Grudge that makes you re-roll your dice. Other than that, none of the other damn ships make you re-roll them, right? Like, there's nothing else out there. It's just that ship.
Yeah, I mean, and you still have thermal detonators, which, you have to roll dice on, and you can still use that ability to re-roll those dice on those bombs. I mean, there's still use for that particular ship in the first order. But beyond that, I mean, there really wasn't much abuse anywhere else in any other factions for that. I mean, Eman is Eman, and the Scum probably being the exception there, but that's about it.
Yeah. So let's talk about a few things in the chat, and then we're gonna go over to the winner and losers of these point updates, right? Mm-hmm. So in the chat, we already talked about the seismic skilled, so that makes sense, right? Boba is a loser for Chaff. I agree with that one. Because that does harm our Boba build just disappeared, and Boba didn't really need. That's not going to bring Boba's power down the way. Will points out that Chaff giving stress out is why they're having the issue of it with it. I don't know 100%. I don't know. Because that kind of goes back to like a proxy mine. Like if you get behind something and it drops a proxy mine, again, we're not going to talk about Grudge. Let's just talk about like a bomber. And like, you know, we've seen some of those Republic. I mean, didn't Catherine run Republic Y-Wings yesterday with proxies on them? You know, not no more, but she did. So there it's you know, like if you know a bomb's coming, you can't always get out of it. But that's the same thing with a mine, right? So the mine you can't always get out of. If you know a Chaff Cloud is coming, you can't always get out of the stress. Maybe the stress. The problem is the stress is not a guaranteed, is it? Don't you roll for the stress, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. And if you know a Chaff is coming, do you just not do a red maneuver? I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too much like D when I say.
No, it's really situational, right? Because it just really depends on the positioning for your ship, where the obstacles are, and where your friendly ships are, right? Because if you know the chaff is coming, right, and you manage to get through it, you have the potential of not getting that stress, right? It's 50-50. And if you haven't bumped anybody, namely like one of your own friendlies, you always have the option of taking that red focus or just maneuvering away. Or sorry, not the red focus. Sorry, just maneuver away or into a better spot, so that way you can potentially avoid getting shot or get into a better shot, especially if you have passive abilities like Predator or something like that can affect the outcome of your dice. So, and if you don't have that availability to you, you know, if you have a support ship and a coordinator that can help you reposition or give you a throwaway token, right? Like giving you an evade token, so that way that gets jammed off, and that way you can still take a red focus or regular focus, or just, you know, completely barrel out of the way of the chaff. You know, you have those options available to you. I think the biggest thing that they help stop was the Alpha Strikes, particularly on the Rebel side, right? Because the Rebels always had those high initiative ships that were able to get into position and get those target locks off on the lower initiative ships, and being able to launch that volley of proton torpedoes to those ships. Chaff, when they came in, basically helped mitigate that list, that potential, because you always force them to take that jam, or break their locks if they happen to fall on the chaff directly, which help protect your ships and give you a fighting chance against that particular archetype. With the chaff cloud gone, I dare say that we're going to see a lot more ion being more prevalent now in the meta. Mainly because if your ship does get ioned, that ship breaks their lock. They can't use their target lock on the ship to use proton torpedoes. I think that's going to be what's going to replace chaff going forward now, is seeing a lot more ion weaponry.
So now, all right, so I guess we're gonna stick with the Chaff Cloud and the stress thing. So Will makes another point and says, hey, it's because it's affecting your dial because you can't take those actions. Therefore, you wouldn't do that because of that. So I agree a little bit with that, and I understand like that does become a problem, but isn't like a proximity mine throwing droid the same thing? You know, like you're taking away agency because I'm going to put this proxy mine in front of myself while I'm sitting on a rock. And as long as you don't, I mean, I guess if you ionize me, I'm taking my own proxy mine. But as long as you don't ionize me, I'm not taking that proxy mine. I mean, that takes away some of that agency too. And I think, what about all these jam? You know, we have these jam ships, the Whispers. Those, we know as soon as they get close to you, they get an action and a jam. Doesn't that kind of take away your zone? And so is a Chaff really just because you can throw it in front of you so far? Is that really the bigger issue? Is because the Chaff is tossed in front of you and it's like a trajectory simulator? Is that really where people are looking at it like that?
Yeah, I mean, I get Will's point that losing actions and options on your dial is a bit much when it's limiting what you can do. However, it's really depending on the ship, right? If you take a look at, let's say, the Empire, for instance, right, the majority of those ships there have three hull. A single proximity mine can easily destroy one of those ships, right? Because just on dice alone, you have a 50% chance of rolling those two either hits or crits on those dice to completely finish off that 3 agility ship. So it is that ship's prerogative to try to avoid being hit by those mines in the first place. Whereas if they're going through a chaff cloud, sure, they're losing their token, like a focus or an invade token, to keep to have that modification there, but they still have a chance with their dice to avoid damage on incoming fire. It's not that big of a difference in terms of having that token or not, but at least you're not taking automatic damage, which is a precious resource on those low health ships. Versus, let's say, like an X-wing, which has 2 shields and 4 hull. You can eat a mine and still stay alive, regardless of the result of what you roll. And the loss of the action isn't as bad. So I think it's just objective to what kind of ship you're flying and what's going through it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, and again, I think one of the big things with the Chaff is, to me, the stress isn't as big of a deal. I guess it is. I guess it is, because it's a 50-50. You're going to get stressed, right?
Yeah.
But like, the bigger thing for me was that you land on a Chaff cloud and can't take an action. But like, you can do other that's where it pissed me off more. Right? Like, so I think that piece should have been changed over getting rid of the stress. But I guess maybe if you take the stress and say, we're going to give you a strain instead, is that just as bad? I don't know. And again, we go back to maybe they make it like a Discord missile where it can be blown up or something. I don't know. I don't know, because Discord missiles are effective in reducing your shot. Those can shoot 3 straights. Like, they're not quite as bad, but I can tell you I get 90% of my Discords off, except for when I had to play Ryan. I got 90% of my Discords off other than that. And so I don't know, because that takes away a person's agency too. But I guess at least they get the choice. Do I want to crit, or do I just want to, shoot it? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally agree. So
nope. And Matt, we agree with you on the skilled bombardiers, like the skill fombers. Like, we actually agree with you on that was our original thing, is let's get rid of skilled, let's get rid of the reposition for Chaff missiles. And then they should go up in price a little bit. That's my bigger thing with that. That's what I would have rather seen than them go up to 9 points. The 9 points, I don't know. I mean, you can still take Chaff Cloud.
It could have been both, right?
Giving up a lot.
You could have slightly adjusted the Chaff to go to either 5 or 6 points, and then adjusted Scale Bombardier to go up to 4 to 5 points as well, right? If not outright, just ban it, just depending on how you feel. I think that would have been the more correct balance in that point, and you still have the availability to still use that upgrade as the option, and instead of like using a bomb, you can still use that Chaff. You're not doing automatic damage with the bombs that you would with. I'm sorry, you're not like guaranteeing that damage, but you still have the potential to at least help your ships be a little more defensive in that aspect, and making sure that ship survives, because you're less likely to take damage from a ship that has been jammed and not had that action or that token, whereas bomb is just purely offensive. So.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yep.
So those are really the bigger. Hey, my picture decides it's going to disappear. Those are really the bigger points changes that we've had. For this, we will be covering more on Sunday. And we'll probably be doing some list building on Sunday, because I believe that the ASB is up to date now. So originally on last Sunday, I said, hey, if you want to build me a CIS list to play with the new points, to submit them. But can I guess I shouldn't say this. Andrew Oler doesn't watch our show, but like, I mean, like, we the Separatists didn't have any big points changes. So, like, I mean, yes, Proxy's going up and Notorious going up. Did we cover Notorious or did we miss?
Yeah, Notorious went up to 5 points, but that was probably the only thing. Although I will say, as a caveat, that I'm kind of surprised that Trick Shot didn't go up in points as well. That is something that probably should have been adjusted to help reduce the effectiveness of the ships that can take both Shadow Shot and Trick Shot. Shadow Shot also another upgrade that probably should have went up in points as well. Just being able to add results to your dice is very, very strong, especially now when you have chaff missiles that are probably not going to see very much play now because of their cost. But we're definitely going to see a lot more of that now going forward.
Yeah. So with Notorious going up to 5, which I think is fair, I think 5 is pretty aggressive still. I think we could have seen a 4-point Notorious, but at the same token, everybody was taking Notorious. So now you really want it. You have to really want Notorious. But if you think about it, and this is where, because Notorious has the restriction of the illicit slot, you're spending 7 points minimum on Notorious. And if you want a really good thing, you're spending 8 points on Notorious.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess I don't have a problem with it. I don't know. I don't have a problem with that. I guess it is what it is. So with it going up, we'll see less prevalence. I will be happy to say I don't have to take a million strains with me everywhere I effing go now. So,
yeah.
Though I do have the double-sided deplete strain. But I'll tell you, you know what's a pain in the ass about that? If I accidentally put the deplete on the wrong side and then forget, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, wasn't that supposed to be a strain?
Especially with Jingoist. Yeah, that used to happen to me all the time. Like, oh, I forgot what I do. Oh, man. Yeah.
I don't know. So I still think Notorious is going to see play. I don't think we're going to not see play. I think it'll see more play in Scum probably than we will see it in Separatist. I really, I will tell you my Django build, the only difference is I'm losing Notorious. That's literally the only difference in my Django build. And George's Django build with Palpatine, the only difference is he loses Notorious. That's it. That's probably fine. If we think about it, it's probably fine. Django didn't need any more help than he already had. So I'm not saddened by that.
Yeah, you could put Predator or Treacherous and you're fine. You're absolutely fine.
Well, you lose the 2 points because proxies went up by 2 points, man. That's why.
Oh,
so
yeah,
you're losing those 2 points.
Yeah, Notorious or Proxy. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Or
how about
even
this?
Just go to thermal detonators, which are still 5 points.
You could do that and keep. Yeah. You could also if they had not up proxies and just left them there, I would immediately be taking Treacherous all day long. So that would just, especially with tie swarms nowadays, I guess we're not going to see Y-wing swarms, at all anymore. But with the number of ships that were on the table outside of Rebel, when people are putting 5 or 6 ship lists, Notorious on Treacherous on Django is one of the better calls. Again, it's just hard to give up Notorious. That's Notorious was just too cheap at 2 points. Oops.
It really was.
Yeah. So I don't know. Notorious is bad on NI6. Yeah, you're probably right, Greg. Yep, I probably should have been running Treacherous that whole time.
Yeah.
So that I will say that is a little sad with the proxies going up. I no longer can run. I can't put Treacherous back on him unless I drop proxies down to either thermals or something else. Which I don't know. I'm not super opposed to having Django with thermals or Django with a blazer bomb. That's kind of intriguing to me now. How many times am I getting both of my proxies off on Django every game? It's a low probability. Usually I get one. Most people either try to eliminate Django before he can drop them. And some of me wonders if that blazer bomb is now going to have a little bit more of an effect, because that blazer bomb is 2 bombs in one, right? Yeah,
exactly. And if you manage to finagle your points a bit, you can actually use Trick Shot on top of that too, because that blazon is an obstacle.
Yeah. So maybe I'm going to try that. I got to probably remember how it works so that way when I use it, I know what it does. I don't know. So I some of me wonders, like, and now we're going to talk a little bit about winners, losers of this. So obviously, Crispy's FO list is the loser. But I don't think I'm sad to see that list go. Personally, I was sick of seeing that as the only FO list that people are running. If you think about it, the quick draw lists that we've been seeing, they're going to become a little bit more prominent now because people can move away from those bombers and still be successful in FO.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I'm not 100% sad by it, other than now there's going to be a variability that we're going to have to relearn when playing against First Order. So there's that. I think on my world, like that, to me, that was a big winner. To me, the loser is still Chaff Missile. I don't care what anyone says. I didn't want to see that eliminated immediately. But I think I think Rebels get a power increase, a slight power increase. And I'll be interested to see how well that Han does, personally.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to see what Nick Sperry comes up with the new Han, to see how effective he is with that.
Yeah, because that going down a whole point allows you to put something else in that list, or take one of those other ships and break it apart. So
I mean, heck, if you still keep the Luke, Wedge, and Han, right, from the Battle of the Yavin Pack alone, that's
you get 2
extra points that you can put in there. You can try finagling some of the points around, or just sacrificing Luke for something else. Probably another 5-pointer, and then have space for another 3-pointer, like an A-wing, to help out, like Derek with his target lock stress shenanigans. That seems pretty good.
So I know what he was going to change, but I can't reveal it. So, like, I know what if the points came in a certain way, I know where he was going with it, and I'm not going to reveal it. So
Tender gods, yes. Absolutely.
There was we've already had a discussion in our group about what he's going to do if he was more worried about Luke getting screwed over. I told him I didn't think that was a thing, but I mean, I think
they've gotten stronger. If anything, I mean, Vader and Luke have gotten stronger.
Yeah. And I think we're definitely gonna see more Vader. So, but I think Rebel Alphas are probably the biggest thing, and I'm gonna say it. Scum is the biggest loser. That faction should have been touched a little bit, and given some love. I don't care what anyone says. That to me, Scum shouldn't be. We only run big ships.
I agree.
But I think that they're gonna have to give a little bit more makeover to Scum if they want to fix things, like, so you don't run just the big ships. Again, I'm not in agreement that we move Bando to 6 points, but that's fine. If they move Bando to 6 points and start shifting some loadouts around, I would have seen
okay with that.
Then I think we see a little bit of a change in there. They could use a different 2-point ship as well, like we'd already kind of talked about, but I think Scum got screwed out of this one.
Yeah, same thing with the Fang Fighters. I think that overall they still haven't gotten any benefits at all from this. They're still very lackluster in the current meta right now, with range aerial attacks, and just having 4-hull. It's very difficult to fly a Fang Fighter, even if you're Feng Rao, especially if you're Feng Rao. So just not seeing any love giving out to the Fang Fighters, it makes me a little bit sad. But yeah.
All right. Anything else?
The other thing is the Republic. I mean, having those cheap ships come in, specifically the ARC 170s coming in to help bolster those forces, and the cheap Ada fighters. We're definitely going to see a lot more meta without the lats to back up the Republic, and we're definitely going to see a lot more beef coming out of that faction. It's going to be a very interesting meta shift for that faction.
Yeah, and I think I'm okay with that. Like, I think it's time we see. Like, it's sad because the lats are so iconic.
Yes.
But I think it's time that, I think, again, the lats being able to do it twice in a round, plus getting their thing back, their charge back, and not having really any consequences from it, plus all the health. I think that, again, they could have just have been designed a little bit better, and we probably wouldn't be in the same, boat. But yeah, you can't have 2 Jedis throwing 4 dice, every round and get rerolls out of it. You just can't you can't give another ship like an invisible ship. I don't know. So I think the lat could just have been changed and the points could have been fine. But I still think Hawkwit at 12 points is going to be a go-to. That I4 is so good.
Yeah, definitely. I know. I could definitely see Duncan Howard being happy with new options here for those Republic cases.
Yeah, yeah. Well, stop it. Hawk and 2 4-point arcs and Anakin. Yeah, yuck.
Yeah,
but it's gonna be a thing. I mean, and you know what the funny thing is, Sean from our locals was messing around with arcs and Hawk before the points changed. So depending on what these standard loadout Hawks have on them, I'm pretty sure he's going to be pretty excited because his Hawk, he liked his missile Hawk, but I mean now this just becomes a more defensive Hawk, and you could even forego the 7th Fleet Gunner. You could just forego that. Like you could just say we're not like. You could make that lat be a little bit more productive and like. I mean, just being able to put Satine on there. You have Satine plus 2 other points. I don't know. That seems pretty good too. It would have been nice if they had 3 points though, right? Because then Hawk could have taken Agile Gunner and Satine, and I don't think that's broken at all.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Agile barrage rockets. Yeah, yep. Dedicated Agile and barrage rockets. I can see that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, do you even need Agile at that point, though? Do you even need it? Like, do you even need it?
Hey, Agile is just a filler, man. I mean, yeah, you're okay without it, with or without it. Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, all right. Well, thank you all for joining us in the middle of workday. We had to kill some time for JJ because he has nothing to do with his new job. So, somebody clip that, send it to his employer.
Yeah, I actually got to jump into a meeting right now, but yeah.
But anyway, thank you all for joining us. We will be back on Sunday. If you have lists, we have in our Discord a list submissions tab. You're welcome to submit any lists. Now you don't need to submit Separatists because I already know what I'm running for Sunday against Andrew Oler. But you're welcome to submit other lists that we can we can cover and dissect and things like that. And JJ this weekend will try to dig up all those cards for every one of the informations we have for all the other cards. And we'll put those together in a doc and try to have that so we can display that this week. So
yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, cool. Thank you all for joining us again. Oh, we'll be back. There you go. We'll be back tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern if you would like to come watch Nickel City. And it is Nick Sperry playing from the Tinder Gods tonight. So if you would like to see Nick Sperry hopefully win, or at least give us a good game to play, join us tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you later.